What is going on, everybody? Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with day two and Elise Todd. What's going on, guys? How you feeling, Elise?
I am feeling so good. I'm really stoked about today. I think this is like the climax of the 2 days. So I hope you guys are ready.
Exactly. I know, guys. Be prepared, be ready. I want to say hello to a couple of you guys. We're going to get through some house cleaning items, and then we're going to jump right back to Elise for her to just break down what we did yesterday, bring you guys into today, and we'll get going from there. How's that sound, Elise?
That sounds perfect. Thank you.
Sweet. All right, let's do it. All right, what's going on, Golden, Julian, Umacorn? We're glad to have you all in here, Raphael. Guys, very quickly, we've had quite a bit of a day. We're towards the end. Let's get into what we have next in our schedule very quickly. We have, right now, we are at 12 p.m. PT with Miss Elise Todd. Next, we have Sir Howard Pinsky doing our daily creative challenge, but we've had quite a packed day. So I hope you guys have enjoyed what we've been doing and continue to dig what we've got. So don't forget, if you guys are also on YouTube, come over to Behance. Don't forget to hit the like button before you leave. You guys should be having some moderators over there giving you guys a link to come and join the family here. We're going to get into a lot of good stuff today, and we're only reading the Behance chat. So if you want your questions answered, definitely come join us here. That's all I got. All right, Elise, bring us into today, a little bit of a recap of what we did yesterday. What's going on?
Yes. So we are building an online portfolio in Adobe XD. And to be more specific, my own portfolio in Adobe XD. And so what I'm sharing right now on my screen is my personal site, EliseUX.com. I launched this a couple of weeks ago. And what I had found out through a site called InSpeclet that I showed yesterday in Speclet, you can see sessions of what people were doing on your page. So let's look at a little example here. Here we can see what someone was doing, what they were clicking on. See, like, oh wow, look at this screen. It looks very odd for this person, right? Some of those challenges we can find out through observing, and like, how much time are they spending on my site? What are they confused with? And then we can make some assumptions up about our product or our site, right? So one of the things I found was a lot of people were going on to my site and going on to my projects. And then from there, what I have is when they click view case study, they were going into my Behance profile. But I don't want people to go to my Behance. I actually want them to stay on my site. And eventually my goal is to have them sign up for getting access to my future events. So that's what I'm doing today and yesterday is I'm focusing on creating these templates for my portfolio and for my case study in Adobe XD. So here is what we created yesterday together, because there was a lot of audience participation, right, Brandon? Like we were getting, yes. Everyone was helping us out. You were helping me out to create this projects page where I'm just listing out all of my projects. So here we decided to have this little header, this little top area with my clients that I've worked with, the logos right here at the top. And because through InSpeclet, when watching and observing people go on my site, everyone kept trying to click on the logos. But we've decided, like, maybe if we put it here at the top, people won't think they're clickable. So that's an assumption we're going to make. We'll see when I launch this, and we'll look at InSpeclet again. If people are like clicking around here, like, what's going on? We don't want people to be confused on our sites. That's what we want to try to avoid. So the other thing we started was designing these different various little sections for how I'm going to display each project. And I want to show you guys too what I did since last night, since our conversation, since we designed these pieces together. But we kind of landed on something like this, where we had one section with this little background rectangle with an opacity with the image. Then we have another sort of section with sort of all with my funky fun shapes branding is what we were trying to implement. The challenge was trying to make sure my branding is not too starkly different and such a weird experience from the branding on the actual product. So that was the challenge we were trying to solve yesterday. But I added this one here, Papyrus, as well. We have my Adobe project. We have another project here, the Ranch, and another one here, Local IQ. And then I created a call to action here, want to work together. And yesterday, these were the ones we were playing around with, right? If you guys were here, we had all these different various versions that we tried out, and we're like, oh, I like this one, I don't like that one, and playing around with that. We were also looking at some inspiration. You can see how this one really was applied to my current profile, and as well as this one here with the background image and opacity. So what I wanted to start off today was doing a little voting as well. So I've tried out a couple different styles since last night. I want to show you them, get your opinion, what you think I should keep. And then what we're going to focus on today is actually designing the case study page. This is the one that everyone's like, how do I design a case study? And I'll talk a little bit about structure and some of my strategies here. But every case study is different. So we'll try to give you guys some tips and tricks for your own case study as well, as far as the actual content and the design of it as well. So let's begin with that. How does that sound, Brandon?
That sounds perfect. And by the way, before we hop in too deep with that, guys, I want to have you guys remember, in addition to me, we have at the last 30 minutes, we have our artist spotlight. So get excited for that as well. Now, back into the voting and what you got, Elise. Just had to put that back out there.
Please do. So my first version we have here is with the actual image with that opacity and the little shape in here, right? So I'm using that every other one, which I started doing last night. And then I had another version with an actual image, which I wasn't loving as much because maybe I was thinking it's too distracting from the actual device and my design. So I was thinking, okay, maybe I won't do that. But that was the second version I tried out last night. Then I tried a new third version with the shape on the other side where the copy is, and then having a kind of a whitewashed image in the background that kind of represents that brand as well. So those are, I kind of try to narrow it down to maybe these two. So this is one on the left-hand side, number A, that you guys helped me out with more yesterday. And then I have a version B with the actual shapes here inside with that white background. This is version B. And I wanted to get a vote today. What do you guys think, or any other suggestions at all before we move on? So this is A and this is B. What is your guys' thoughts? Do you like them? Do you think that there should be just X-nay all of it? It's awful. What are your thoughts there?
A or B, guys? What are your thoughts? Which one, while everybody's getting in their their submission for A or B, which one would you most likely go for? Do you think that will tarnish everybody else's decision?
I think it will, but what are your thoughts, Brandon? This is your first time seeing it. You saw the version yesterday. Now you're seeing this new version today. What was your initial reaction? And I can also play this in prototype mode here.
Let me see. The chat is saying B.
Chat is saying B.
Is this B? Is that what?
This is now A.
This is A.
Mm-hmm. This is.
I had a feeling for A. I feel like there was more space in it, but.
Then this is B.
And that's B. I don't know. I'm gonna say let's try this out. Let's try to take. I feel like anytime this happens, and also you have the free reign to do so. But the chat says B, we have one A, but it seems like B is definitely the contender here.
Okay, that was my favorite.
There we go.
But you know what? I was open. I was going to be open to you. We were designing this together, so I want to see what you guys think. This is a collaborative effort. Yeah. But I liked A. I liked B too. So that's what I'm going to go with. Let's do that. All right. Now let's talk about actually designing the case study. We've kind of wrapped it up in a bow, what happened yesterday. What I've done this morning, I've spent now a few hours doing this, is I looked at a few things. Boop, boop, boop. One is my, right here, my I kind of say Behance, my Behance case study, which I probably worked on a few years ago. And here I have some images and the copy, and I thought it was fine. Nothing to write home about. And it was kind of, a fairly lazy way of putting my case study together. And then I mentioned this, I think yesterday, I believe, that I did a Facebook interview about 3 months ago. And what they asked me to do was a 30-minute presentation on my work, more specifically on one, spending time on one. And so what I did is I created a presentation deck. And oftentimes people are confused with how much should I put in my presentation deck versus my case study? Is it the same amount? Is it the exact same content? What is the difference there? And so what I recommend is to think about your actual case study as the leaner teaser version of your presentation that you're going to be able to really flesh out more and give more detail. So this was actually my presentation that I did for them. And so here I actually have a little walkthrough, but you'll see that my presentation is a lot more image heavy, not as much content heavy. There's a lot of bullet points, right? And I have some of my notes down below in here. So I'm actually speaking through a lot of what I'm talking about in my presentation. And my actual case study is the more copy heavy, right? So a little bit more balance of words to imagery, because no one wants to read a bunch of words for a presentation, right? You want to be explaining the story. The emphasis should be on you and your storytelling communication skills. So that's really the main difference. But what I did this morning was I took both the case study, which I did years ago, and then my newest presentation that I revamped 3 months ago. And I created a new Word doc that is a compilation of the two. And case studies are something that you can constantly be improving and iterating upon. The first version is not the end all be all. Just get something out there. And then you could always make it better. And this has been years and years now, this case study in the making for me, at least for 4 years now that I've been working on this. And it's getting better every time. So no worries about making it the best the first time. So what I've done now is I've laid it out. And someone asked me this yesterday, was like, do I just like go straight from like, I remember my project to designing in XD? No, we need to have a structure. We need to understand how we want to lay out the copy and have an idea of the layout and content first. So what I've done is, as I've done just that. So I have like my heading, my H1, a little bit of background in what the project is or what Envoy is. And then I have you're going to see here, if I scroll, there's a lot of headings and a lot of bullet points. And that's what we want to look for in a case study, is a skimmable experience. Because people don't want to read a full-on long case study full of words. They want something that they can like look through really quick. Okay, does this make sense? Does it look good? Okay, maybe I'll invest a little bit more time. But that's what we're really looking for. And so when we look at some other examples of great case studies, this is kind of one of the quintessential case studies that is shared, is this guy, Simon Pan, who worked for Uber and did this case study. You'll see that it's a skimmable experience with a nice balance of images and copy. He's also this guy, like, don't think that you have to be just like him, because he's a master at copy. And so, but this is definitely like a North Star to look at. Another one I was looking at yesterday was this one here, Dappy. And they also have a really great blend of copy and our balance of images and copy. Not too heavy, picture forward, really fun. And so those are the two sites that I'm looking at for my own inspiration for my site. They both have is videos as well as GIFs. And we'll talk a little bit more about that today, how to create GIFs as well. All right, let's break it down now. What I'm going to do is, or let's start putting stuff to XD. I'm going to take my little case study here in a Word doc, and you're not going to be able to see this because I'm going to put it on my other monitor. But if you have two monitors, it's great to like be able to copy from one and then paste into another. But I am just now going to start fresh with a new artboard. So let's do that first. So here I have my artboard. And I'm just going to basically do a very mid-fi, which is a blend between low fidelity and high fidelity for this version. It doesn't have to be the final look and feel right now, because I'm just trying to put things to the artboard. What I would do also is you might want to just sketch this out on a piece of paper. But I'm trying to do things really fast. It's not as important for me for my own website. I don't spend as much time and energy structuring things on my own stuff than I do for other clients. So is that true for you, Brandon, ever? Are you like a little lazier with yourself sometimes?
Yeah, because we talked about this a little bit yesterday. There's different modes of like, especially in where we are more so building relationships, and we kind of have that leverage to like be lackadaisical on what we have, but we've done enough where people are like, oh, they kind of know our names a little bit. Or even when we talk to them, they're like, oh, okay, we can see that value. So it's kind of what we were talking about. Like if you are trying to break in, you have to have if someone doesn't know your value, you have to find a way to actually be able to spell it out for them very quickly. But if you have some sort of leverage or experience where people are introducing you to other people to do work, you can kind of lean on their credibility and their word. So yeah, we actually have some good questions. We don't have to answer it now, but I feel like we naturally
feel
will.
Free.
Feel
free to send some.
Selene in the chat. Writing is the hardest part of a case study, unless for her. I think for everybody. Or and pardon me if I didn't correctly identify, but let's see. What is your approach to writing when it comes to projects, especially whether it's personal or professional? Like, how do you get everything that you have in that Google Doc in there? How long would you say that would take? And what is your approach to getting your ideas in a written format?
Yeah, that's a great question, because that is the most challenging aspect for me as well. I don't love writing, that's why we're designers. We're not copywriters.
Yes.
But I kind of expressed this a little bit yesterday, which is I first consider writing down all of the major things that happened, and in a storyline format, like, okay, first I understood what the business goals were. And then I went out and did some user research and interviewed people, and not just what I did, but my takeaways from each of those actions. So it's not so exciting to tell someone I did user research. Guess what? Everyone does user research, right? Or you should, right? That's a given. What you want is the takeaways that were strategic to the end result, that had an impact to that end result. So that's why it's great to do it in this like bullet format, where I write my goals and I'm like, okay, what are two goals that I had? And I don't have to write every single goal that I have. What were the two most important things that I can show that I actually that I met those goals or tried to meet those goals in the end result? And so I just think of two of those things, and again, bullet points. Then let's say I'm testing out the Envoy experience myself. This was the other aspect of me actually going to the locations. Well, what did I get from that? I did some guerrilla research. I chatted with some customers as they were on site, when they were just there, happened to be at this location with me. And I just asked them questions and got a few takeaways from doing that. So that's what I added here. Then I did some competitive analysis. Okay, everyone does that. Well, why is that impactful and important? And for my scenario, or this project, because the product I was working on, which was a vehicle sharing app, it only had 4 or 5 screens. It was so lean. But as you can imagine, when you're thinking about building an app that has this in-person component with a vehicle, there are tons of issues that can arise. So I talk about how I wanted to look at competitors that already had a high volume of reservations, a high volume of vehicles, and a more robust app experience. That's why I really wanted to test and spent more of my time testing out those experiences versus testing out our own experience and the issues that I had encountered from that. So these are the important pieces that are really impactful. And again, 1 to 2 sentences that describe potentially what you did and then what came out of that, the big takeaways that came away. All right. So you're basically doing that throughout the whole journey. And when you get to a place, you're going to maybe have, quite a few pages of words, then you want to self-edit, right? What are things that don't really matter? What are things that you actually didn't even do anything for for the end result? Like it didn't even matter that little side story. And then what I do is I practice this out loud. I practice like talking through my case study out loud as if I'm sharing it with someone. And from there, I'm like, oh, that doesn't make sense, the order I did it, or that was really boring how I explained it, etc. So then I do another self-edit. And then the third thing you can do is actually have someone else read it. And it doesn't have to be a designer. And in fact, it probably shouldn't. Somebody who's a family member or something. If they're like very confused with what you're talking about in the story, you should edit it so that it makes sense to just basically to most individuals, because HR people are reading this, recruiters are reading this. They might not know all the words and everything and the vocabulary within the UX field. So making it really lean, easy to understand, skimmable, and enjoyable, an enjoyable experience reading it. And those are the things to look at while you are, when you're creating it. I hope that helps you. I know it can be vague because every project has its own story, Yeah,
I think the way that you put it was simple terminology is good. Short, simple, and to the point of what is the outcome of the project. I think that's it.
Yes, that's it.
Remember, guys, that's the sauce. That's the sauce that goes on top of the.
Well, I'm going to explain things too as I kind of go through mine. Like at the top, I'm having what the project is, what this was, what I was doing. It was a redesign, an app redesign. So whether it's a website redesign or you're starting from something from scratch. And then I always like to describe what the company is, because if you just throw someone into it, and then I started by doing research, like, well, what is even the company? What is it about? So you want to just give 1 to 2 sentences. So this is a community-based electric car sharing service. So they provide this in communities such as hotels, apartments, workplaces. And so unlike a Bird or Maven or some of these other vehicle sharing services, it's only based in your community. You're only sharing it potentially with your other apartment neighbors. And they have Teslas as well. They have some luxury vehicles and other types of electric vehicles. Okay. So what I have here is the top there, that little explanation. And I haven't decided yet whether I want maybe an image to go right underneath or to be right at the top. I might consider just bringing in this whole guy over. Yes, today is a little bit more strategy session with designing. So just be aware of that.
We're getting in depth.
We're getting in depth. Yes. So I might do something like that too, I might consider this. Might bring this guy over. Or I was thinking I might have a version here with the content at the top. So it's just much more readable and easy for people to read, and then have an image below. So these are going to be a couple versions I'm going to play around with. Okay. So then right after that, you want to have the challenge, what you were tasked to do. That's the most important piece here. So I am going to now, this might be my image here. So I am going to literally write the challenge. This is going to be fairly small. Because I want to put underneath that what my challenge was, just a description of it. So here, The challenge, you don't want to sometimes just write the most high level headings like challenge, research, competitive analysis. You want to do something that's, again, skimmable and more interesting. So you want to think about the content that's going to be living inside this. Like what is your challenge, right? So that's where I begin with. I write this content first. And I talked a little bit about this yesterday, how I break this introduction down. But one is you want a little bit of background information. So here I wrote, in 2018, the rise of electric scooter companies like Bird and Lime, Envoy, an electric car sharing startup, added scooters and e-bikes into their offering, making the only company to offer all three. So at this point, the background is they only had one type of car, and now they're adding 2 more vehicle types, right? Then Envoy was looking to get their next round of funding and had to prove that their product could scale outside of Los Angeles. I led an ambitious project to redesign the app in order to reduce customer service requests and create a frictionless process. So here I'm really starting to state my goals here. I'm also talking about the business goal right here, which how my goal is related to the larger business goal. And that's super important to show your strategy and your design strategy here. So they wanted to scale outside of LA, which is why I decided to change my heading into something like my goals or the challenge to taking Envoy beyond Los Angeles. And it's something I'm still playing around with, but that's why I structured my title this way. And it's best to do this part after you've already written out your content. I'm also realizing right now I'm just going to remove an electric vehicle sharing company because I already introduced them. So again, if you can reduce the amount of words, it's always a good thing, and still make your point.
100%.
All right.
Now, it is quite obvious to some of us, obviously, how this translates to Behance. We export it. But there is a question, and I'm not even sure this exists. In my personal opinion, when we're done with something like this, to get it on Behance, we just export it. But somebody's asking, are there extensions to bring what we're making in here, just, not from because I know we're going to take this into Webflow when we're done with this. Not today, guys, but that's the future plan. Some people in the chat are asking, what is once I get my case study done in XD, what are the next steps for those who are totally new?
Yeah. So something actually that I do suggest is maybe not to begin potentially with designing your full case study in XD. I know it's counterintuitive to what I'm doing, but if it's your first time, I might do what I had done before, which is to put everything in Behance. And also what Behance does, because it's so fast. Sometimes if you get too bogged down by the actual output and the design and all the places you can host it, it becomes overwhelming because just writing the content and creating the images is overwhelming, right? So you want to just have the quickest path to success and have quick successes. So that's why I just had mine on Behance for a while. And now Adobe has a Adobe portfolio. So it can actually convert your Behance into a Adobe portfolio for a free website, right? Or free with Creative Cloud at least. And from there, now you have a website and you have a presence on Behance. And again, the more places you have your design work, the better, the more exposure you're going to get. So this is where I would begin. And what I did was actually create all my assets in Adobe XD, right? So I created all of these screens in XD and exported it as a PNG and uploaded that into Behance. I also even have on some of my case studies, still you can have GIFs. Let's see, where is my GIF? Here we are. You can upload GIFs as well into Behance, and we'll talk about how to create these. But you can have an extremely impactful design or portfolio without having to create everything from scratch. That's what I would recommend for very, very beginners. But if you're like, no, I want to make something extra special, right? You want to get into Webflow perhaps, or create something from scratch. you could do what I'm doing now, which is to make something much more, I have my own branding. I want to make something much more personalized with my own brand. So that's why I'm doing it in XD. And from here, I'm going to, again, export my assets and recreate everything in Webflow. Now, there are some plugins, like one, Anima, in XD, where you can export your designs and you can actually get the CSS and the code, and you can potentially find other, somewhere else to host your site if you want to do that from scratch. I'm not someone who wants to deal with code, so I don't do that. But if some of you who are UX, UI, and you do some front end, like maybe that's the route you want to take. You can also do some rudimentary Squarespace Wix versions of this, but it's a lot more harder to make it that personalized and that unique in those hosting platforms. And that's why I chose Webflow, because there's just a lot more customization.
Right.
That was a lot. Sorry.
No, it was good. It was like, hey, look, listen, if you want to get the job done, keep it like you can make it personalized, simple, and do everything literally in a couple of days by just using Behance. Write your copy, take your assets of what it is you made, mix it up together in a coherent story, slap it onto Behance, literally just take the words that you've written, put it onto Behance, and upload those images and GIFs. Done day.
Yes, exactly. Like that's what I would do for your first time creating anything. Because again, it's a little overwhelming. All right, so something I'm doing right now is I am looking at this case study, and I liked that they have these goals laid out like this, and it just makes it kind of separates it from the rest of the content, right? And so it's still just copy, but it's a visualized version of copy that makes it more interesting or visually interesting. So that's something I'm basically just copying myself, my own version of it. So I am going to write out my design goals, something like this, and they have some like large, like some large numbers here with their goals. So I'm going to do that. How does it sound like people are feeling about their own case studies through this, Brandon?
They're feeling pretty good. There are some questions in regards to like how to do things on the site side of things, but we have Celine saying this is a masterclass. Other people saying A with triple and double and quadruple E's.
What does that mean?
And they're just saying, yo, this is they're in listening mode. Guys, also just a reminder, if you're popping in, I do see quite a few of you coming in. Feel free to drop some questions that you have as we're going through the process. We're dropping a lot of gems in regards to how to think in terms of writing your case studies, both from a copy standpoint, also just how to visualize what it is that you would like prospective hiring individuals or people you would potentially like to work with. When they come across your stuff, what are some of the checkpoints that they kind of need in their mind to be like, oh, I can see how this person might actually benefit and be of value to my team or my company. So keep your eyes peeled, keep your fingers ready to hit the keyboard, whether you're on your phone or watching here, guys. And if you're back on YouTube and you've just popped in on over there, come on over to Behance, guys. There should be a link over in the chat for you guys to come join the family. But if you guys have any questions, I know from the chat there has been a lot of not necessarily repetitive, but the same questions where it's just like, what exactly do we need to write? And you kind of answer that with just keep it at impact. What is everybody's done the user research, the personas, the ABC, XYZ, because that's the process. But nobody wants to read that entire scripture. They just want to be like, you know what I'm saying? They're just like, can we get to, I just want to, you don't have to know what's in a hot dog to have a good hot dog experience. You'll eventually ask. But if the hot dog is good, do you really need to ask? Only some people will.
You like to do a lot of references with hot dogs.
It's you know what? I don't even like hot dogs like that. I like sausage. But It's just easy because it's a comparable example.
Yes.
I don't know. Has anybody in the chat not had hot dogs? I mean, or something that,
You do a lot of references to it yesterday too. I like it.
it was the first thing that came to mind because everything else I was like, just shut it down.
Life is like a hot dog. You never know what kind of condiments you're gonna get.
Exactly. And they'll be like, Brandon, what happened to lemons? I was like, nobody eats lemons like they do hot dogs. You can't put, yeah. Robert Stewart is asking, how do you stay motivated? You do a lot. You do like 12 plus events a month. You teach individuals how to do exactly what we're doing here. How do you stay motivated as an individual who does so much? I know that's a loaded question while you're trying to literally just get the bullet points down. So do feel free.
It's a good question. Yeah. So I think that I've realized that motivation is finite, right? You can't feel it all the time and expect for you to feel it all the time. And that is something I've had to come to terms with is sometimes I'm motivated and sometimes I'm lazy as hell. And that's okay because it comes to me and I had to just really experience this and just become really self-aware, which is like, how do I feel motivated? When do I feel motivated? When do I feel dismotivated? I was just observing that this last year and especially easy this past year, right? Because you're just mostly at home and you could do a lot more self-reflection. Right. And so something that I've done is observe that in myself. And I've found that I have moments where I'm really excited. And then I go through periods where I'm feeling really tired and not motivated at all. And it comes back. It comes back in waves and I feel really motivated and sometimes for longer and then maybe not so much. Like I took, I think 6 weeks off December and the beginning of January. I didn't feel like working. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, I wonder if I'm going to feel motivated again. Like, when's that going to happen? It's kind of like this magical thing. Like, when's it going to come back? And it came back the end of January. I was like, I'm motivated again. I want to finish things. I want to do my things in my life. And that was really great. But when I don't feel motivated at all, and I have to, right? Like I've created a lifestyle for myself where I don't work full time for anyone. So I can take time off when I want it. And I know that's not the case always. And sometimes I do, when I'm working on a project, I have to stay motivated. And so in that case, I actually find people who motivate me, motivational speakers, right? Whether it's Gary Vee, I've liked this woman, Mel Robbins, and I watch their content. I watch them speak. I read books. I read Tony Robbins books to pump me up. And something else I do is take solo trips. So I do recently, because I can't travel out of the country by myself anymore or travel at all, I do solo camping trips. And I just spend time reading and writing my thoughts and decompressing and understanding maybe why I'm not feeling motivated, and reading a lot of motivational books, and that pumps me back up. So I feel you, and it's okay to feel that way, motivated and dismotivated sometimes.
I love it.
Something else. What I'm doing right here is you're seeing me just grab from another art board these images here of screens, plus I've added this text. What I suggest for designers to do is not just show me screens. I don't know what I'm looking at, what I'm supposed to gather from it. Mm-hmm. Right. So instead, to basically create your own annotations or your thoughts or what I should be paying attention to in these screens. You're kind of like holding my hand a little bit as a reader. And so here, what I did was I'm showing what the screens looked like before we did the redesign. And I'm pointing out what things I want you to pay attention to. So they only had a few locations in Los Angeles. People didn't understand what these icons meant. Right at this point here, there's a charge level, but how does that convert to how many miles, right? People don't understand, okay, it's a 20% charge. What does that mean for an electric vehicle, especially for someone who's never ridden one before?
Yeah.
The fact that they only had one use case, how to book a vehicle, for 3 or 4 screens that they had created. There was also a bunch of empty screens in this dashboard. And so these are the things that I'm trying to point out and tell the reader that I noticed in the redesign before we did the redesign, right? So that's what I'm doing here, is giving some context to my screens. So then after this, I am creating now testing out. Go ahead.
No, I was about to say, we have a lot of good questions on like the final portion of this. A lot of good questions about how are you going to take this, especially if your output is Webflow at the end of the day. How are you going to transition what we're doing here into mobile? There's a question about that. I'm not sure if we have enough time to do that, but maybe even if answering that verbally.
Yeah, so for mobile, I don't design for mobile at this point because I'm the one usually or typically designing, putting this in Webflow, although I do have some help. And then from there, I kind of I've already, when I'm designing, I'm considering mobile. So it's not like rocket science for a lot of these more simplistic pages, right? Like things are going to stack an image. This is going to be exported as an image. And so it'll just naturally reduce size for mobile on Webflow. And Webflow, you can actually see, just like Wix, or if you're familiar, with Squarespace or anything like that, you can actually set the different constraints and then design for it in real time as you're designing for desktop. So that's why I don't do this up front. I already have an idea of how it's going to work together on mobile.
Right.
But if that's not something you're comfortable with, feel free to design them together at the same time as well, and see, how will this convert to mobile? Will that make sense? Like all these things here, these are mostly going to be just images with text on top, right? That's how this is going to be formulated. So it's going to be fairly easy to recreate into Webflow.
Yeah, most of these things stack, guys.
Yeah, just stack it, pretty much.
But good question.
Very good question. All right. So here is something I'm doing now. And you might have noticed that I'm using this menu over here on the side. These are my document assets, right? So these are the H1. These are all the font, the typography that I'm using with the different sizes. So I've labeled it H1, H2, H3, etc. And so that's what I'm utilizing right now to create and make sure that there's consistency within my designs. And why I use this, if you guys have ever used character styles or even these document colors here, is if I'm using this purple and I have added it here to my document assets and I click edit and I change my purple here to this dark red, you're seeing anywhere I'm using that dark purple. Where else am I using it? Here, all over. You're seeing everywhere. It's now turned into this red, right? So that's the point, and that's why we use document assets, and why I'm using it consistently here and pulling in the character styles from here as well. Just so you guys know. Something that XD has not done yet is bullet points. It's funny. Like this was actually a complaint from a lot of people. It's like, where are the bullet points? So you have to create and make your own bullet points, just FYI.
But we make them look good.
Yeah, it makes them look nicer, actually, I think.
Yes.
More designed that way. So right now, as you can see, I'm kind of more so placing in content. And what I have done in my actual document, where I've already laid out all of my copy, is I've started to consider what what images might support it. So some things I'm like, okay, place the images of your before screens, or down below here, show the image of the dirty cart. Some things though I haven't thought through yet. And when I start laying it out, I'll start to be able to think a little bit more about what images can support the copy. So something like this here, I was actually, just as I'm designing it, I was thinking, okay, I'm talking about testing out the Envoy experience myself. And so I'm thinking I'm going to actually, what I very much recommend is, as you are going through a project, document it, take as many pictures as you can throughout the experience, because they're going to come really in handy in your actual case study of you actually working and doing things and being on site. So here I am actually at the location. It just makes it start to feel more real and has more of you inside the actual project, not just a bunch of visuals and whatnot. So I highly recommend that. Maybe even I can show you, where did it go? In this example here with Uber and Simon Pan, he has, let's see where I can find it, pictures of himself doing user testing on the street or what have you. And even just like this, what are we looking at exactly? But pictures of the whiteboard stuff, it just makes it feel that much more authentic, that he was actually out there doing these things that he's saying he's doing. So it's something that's easily forgotten as you're going through it. And I've had to remember, oh man, I really need to take a picture of this next time. And something I really recommend that you guys just take your phone out and just be taking pictures all the time. You get on the whiteboard, take a picture of it. So yeah, try that out.
Never forget the whiteboard, guys. Question about success metrics in our case studies. Mm-hmm. Where do you, I'm actually curious, because even all of the impact stuff that we're talking about, those would be the success metrics, right? Everything that you're really detailing in these case studies is around the success metrics, whether it be it's different type of impact basically, but everything that you're putting in this case study is a success metric, right?
Yeah, to some degree. I think that for if you want to think purely about success, just talking about if you have any numbers or how you measured success, you can do it in a couple places. You can talk about it at the top when you're talking about your challenge. And instead of saying I led an ambitious project, you can also kind of talk about the success that you had right here. Just a little teaser of that. Like based on this design project, I increased sales from this to that, or percentage of engagement from this to this. And you can talk about that right at the top. And that is always really great to see, right? To keep people engaged, or maybe even have some sort of visual of it, or have it kind of take more space and be more meaty, something like this, what you attained, just again, a teaser. And then at the end, of course, you want to have some of that success. And for my particular project, I didn't really have a success metric really, as far as anything hard and factual that I could add to this, because it was never launched, this app. And sometimes that happens, right? So instead, I've just included an outcomes screen, which was how did I measure success, and what were some of my reflections there? And for me, I added into here, one was we created these really impressive prototypes that the stakeholders were able to go and show to investors. And they were really happy about that. Like, my stakeholders were really impressed and really happy they were able to do that. They shopped it all around. We're getting investments from Singapore, all these places. They were able to show the power of the app to other places, to other actual property owners that were wanting to invest in the product as well, and to actually take Envoy vehicles to these other countries, etc. So that was a measurement of success for me, as well as for me in particular was just the collaboration between stakeholders, the customer service reps, myself, my design team members, and the development, and how I made sure that everyone was happy and facilitated conversations throughout the experience to make sure each party felt heard and that their opinions were reflected in the final designs that we came up with. So that was a measure of success for me. So sometimes it's not so hard and fast. It's not exact numbers. And you have to think, what is success to you? And also even you can talk about the failures of it as well. And so, yeah, I talk about how at the end, they didn't have enough money to actually build it. So
wow.
Yeah.
You're like, well, that aside.
Yeah, that aside, everything is great. But yeah, that's typically something I put at the end. All right, so I have here some of my bullet points and an image here of me at the site. Next, I was going to talk a little bit about learning from the competition. And that, again, at this point, I'm not thinking that much about like, should I make it so beautiful? I'm just going to get to a certain place right near halfway through the design. And I want to make sure I have enough time to start making this a bit more high fidelity with you guys. So I will do that. But I wanted to just walk you through some of the key elements and phases that I'm including into my own case study that could be helpful for you guys as well. So I think I've mentioned this earlier. I talk about learning from the competition. And in here, what I want to think about is like this could feel a little heavy for text. And actually, I'm going to change this to body copy. Like, is there anything I can pick out in here that I can either bold, bullet points, separate? Does everything need to be sentences put together? So that's something I'm also looking at while I'm doing this. And it might totally be fine, but I'm going to look at it thoroughly right now with you. The Envoy experience was extremely lean. There were only 1 or 2 vehicles on site and a low volume of reservations. Since I wanted to design for scalability, I realized I would learn more from trying out competitors with higher rental volumes. Oops. And I'm just gonna I'm just going to delete that, with higher rental volumes and more built out features. So what I always just triple, quadruple read my stuff because I'm like, I could remove a couple words. Can I make things more clear? Is it too lengthy? Is it too short? Again, constantly self-editing myself. Self-editing. I don't need to say myself.
It's all the same. We went back twice to, yes.
Yeah. So something I'm looking at, it's like I tested out these 4 or 5 brands. Maybe this is something I would put more explicitly somewhere, actually. Oops. And like bold this. Because I'm like, what do I want people to take away from this? Maybe I also might want to, so I'm going to put that into its own sentence and do something with this. And then maybe what I'm going to do is just find an area to bold. Like, what do I want if someone was scanning this? What do I want them to like really pay attention to here?
Finding those bites.
I'm going to do this. I realized I would learn more from trying out Envoy competitors with higher rental. I'm just going to bold that. So if someone were to go through it, they would just be like, oh, I'll just read this piece. Have you guys ever done that yourself? Like, think about how you scan blogs or articles, and how they like the kind of the eyes works. So it's like, okay, I read a header and then maybe I just want to like look for a bullet point or read the bolded areas. So even like think about how you read and skim through things, and try to apply that.
Yeah, I read the headline and that's about, I open up, I'm so bad. I just had to say this. I'm really curious what the chat has to say about this too. And this is why it's really important. I know when I open up a Medium article, I read the 5 headlines and I roll out. And I'm like, I understand the article. So this is not just a minor thing. This is actually very major. What Elise is saying here.
Yeah, what are some other questions or thoughts that people have during this?
That's a great question, guys. The last question we had, it was in regards to the success metrics. But then again, guys, do feel free to drop any other questions regarding portfolios, really what we're getting into, whether it be copy, things of that nature. I do see new people coming in and out. Don't be shy. We don't bite. We talk a lot about hot dogs and things of that nature. But I know that, I'm not going to criminalize Elise and say that, that's my weird tag. But we do not, we want some of your guys' questions. We'll be happy to answer. Let me see. Voodoo says, personally, I think it just, hold on, let me go back to a viewer on YouTube unable to join us on Behance says DoorDash has a food gifting feature now, like the idea Elise talked about on a previous Adobe Live show. They think DoorDash owes you. Yes, send Elise the check.
What? They do?
I have well, somebody was saying that on a previous live, they believe they stole one of your features that you're now just discussing with this. Yes.
That's crazy.
Open up that email.
I wonder now. Okay. Good to know. Thanks for letting me know. Also,
we're good.
Like
we're
that
good
live was happened before the feature came out. So
that just tells you the expansion in the scale at which Adobe Live goes. We just have, people watching Elise's lives from all over the world and then being like, look, you see that case study? Draw it now. Go. Send it to the developers. Send, launch.
Send, launch. Something that I've kind of always struggled with, and maybe you guys can have some ideas for me. And I'll also look at another example, is like placing in real images and making it look nice. Like, how do you make sometimes these images like this? Like, I'm trying to point out this dirty vehicle that I saw when I was doing a competitive analysis, and how people were leaving Starbucks cups and their used hairbrushes, and like there was damages in the vehicle and all these kinds of mishaps when I was testing out competitors. But sometimes it's hard to make it look nice. And so something I was looking at here, maybe it was here, Dappy. What they're doing is they're like just rounding the corners and using these kind of, oh my gosh, what's the word? Collage style to maybe make it nicer. And sometimes it's, here's the Simon Pans. He just also has this kind of collage style that's really popular. Anyone have other ideas for this? Or like, you think that, because I don't actually do I have more pictures I could even use? I don't know.
I would find a Porsche picture and Photoshop a hairbrush in there. To be quite honest, we got to dress it up.
That's your solution?
I'd be like, listen, we have to dress up everything. Find the Porsche Unsplash Perfect. Where's the angle of the brush that we can put in there? And be like in the text, see? User problem. There, hairbrush in Porsche. The audacity.
Yeah, I'm always like, I don't really know. I guess. Because I think I might need to find like a third picture or something to make it better collagey. But again, like, you guys, I didn't take as many pictures as I should have. So something you can do too, maybe what I'm going to do actually right now is I'm just going to find some images online of like a bird scooter and pretend like that was my picture I took.
Exactly. We'll Photoshop the brush on the scooter.
Yeah.
No, but I think that's the best way to go. And especially with people like what you were saying, it's really important to have photography of the process to make it seem more, like you were saying, real. But sometimes, let's say if people are like, man, that actually is a really good point. I've got 3 case studies in my folders. What do I actually do? Well, as we are about to do, and Miss Elise is about to showcase to us, we're about to go find some photography that still illustrates our point.
Yeah, I'm just going to look for like a picture that looks realistic like this, like something I might have actually taken. And I'm just going to like throw it in there. I'm like, there we go. That's me trying out Uber on the streets. This one I'm not sure about anymore because it's like just me like looking like I have a headache. So I might replace that now with some of the other cars that I tried out. So here, let's look at, I'm going to do Zipcar now. And I'm literally just doing a Google search of Zipcar and maybe just going to take a picture that looks like it was taken from a photo and just drag it in. Oh, it's bad quality though. Drag it in. No, bad quality. Try out a few here. Let's see. Yeah, that looks
That's pretty
realistic.
Good. Yeah. And that this looks believable. I believe that you took these.
Good.
What do you guys think?
You even believe it after you saw me?
Yes.
Wow.
I will be the account. Yeah.
Do people think, oh my gosh, blasphemy? She just stole it from the internet. No one's going to find out. No one is going to find out.
Let's see. So we do have some good, when it comes to actually putting collages like this together, like this is an actual real issue that we just went through. We're like, all right, we got two images. We need to find a placeholder, and one has colors. They all look a little bit from either from a different camera, different resolution, things of that nature. So do you have any tips on how someone might make their photography more cohesive?
Oh, I don't think it's really that necessary for a case study. It's just like no one expects a designer to be also a great photographer and a great writer and all these things, right? So it's totally okay to have, as we saw in the examples, right? Like, I mean, this guy has a bit of a nicer pictures, but this one is kind of a little pixelated. And this one is, you know, he's got that interesting spotlight. This looks maybe a little more professional in this one down below, but it's not about being professional. It's about being real and showing like your process. What you want to show for the professionalism is your storytelling skills, and then the final outcome, the images of your design or the final screens and your prototyping and your interaction skills. Those need to be up on par, right? But this is Simon Pan, Uber designer, and one of the most popular case studies. And like, this just looks like him on the street, right? Taking pictures off his phone. And that's totally acceptable. And it honestly adds to the grittiness of feeling even more real. So
gotcha.
Boom, that's what I have to say about it.
Alize has spoken.
I've spoken. That's what I have to say. I can't say anything more. But look, I put rounded corners and that makes it nicer. I could even play around with my own branding and maybe even play around with different shapes and stuff later on if I wanted to. And do like a little shapes collage. Who knows? Who knows?
Exactly.
All right. I'm going to pause there as far as the content goes. We have now, like, you can see from a high level view, there's like a lot more copy to image balance, right? So we want to have that nice balance there. But now I want to like finesse this a little bit more. What are your thoughts actually at the top here? I was thinking I could do a few things. I can actually take an image. An image from Envoy. So I'm actually just also looking online, just grabbing. I can't. So this is what I'm looking at right now. Is this picture of Envoy. And I'm like, can I grab this? Like, why can't I grab it? Oh, here's Envoy at different locations. Huh.
They have some really cool chargers though, I have to say.
Yeah, right?
I was like, let me put that in my
Um,
garage.
how do I grab this image? This one's like the nicest one I could find. So I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna find a way to grab it. Maybe I'll just take a
While you
screenshot of
are
it. Go ahead.
word, while you're finagling with that image, we have two really good questions. I'm
Mm.
surprised we haven't even gotten into this yet. Vanina is asking, what do you think about concept apps or fake app or fake projects for case studies, the ones that we try to do to learn new things, but are not for any client? Would you think that is still something that people who don't have clients should be doing to just keep should that doing fake projects, is that something that people should be doing or no?
Yes, you should. And what is recommended as a junior designer is it's just to have 3 projects. 2 can be conceptual, and then 1 is recommended to have a real project where you've actually worked with a company, had stakeholders, all of that you would need to have on your portfolio as well. So that's the ideal. And so definitely, and once you have those 3 projects and you just want to keep practicing and whatnot, like feel free to have as many concept projects as you want, but eventually you are going to want to get as many real projects once you get to a level that you're a bit more comfortable, even if you're not getting paid for it or you are volunteering your time. I suggest for a lot of the junior designers that I work with when they're looking for work to apply to places for nonprofits in their area. That one of my mentees just recently redesigned the platform, redesigned a downtown women's center. So worked for them, and also maybe local businesses that could use some help, perhaps, right? So you can offer your services to them. You can look online for smaller startups, perhaps, that don't have a designer yet. So those are some ways that you can start gaining that real life experience. And also just friends and family networking. Does anyone have a small business that there's typically someone, right? I have an uncle that has a CPR site that's terrible. I'm like, if I were young, if I were like back, a couple years back, I would maybe, offer to do that for free for him. So
yeah, that's some
network.
really good advice. Like, there's definitely opportunities that you can get into just to, even outside of the fake projects, but there's such low-hanging fruit in regards to getting real experience. A lot of people think that's just in jobs. That you just named like 3 different ways, people can get their hands dirty and some experience in the design world.
Yeah, get dirty.
I was like,
get your hands dirty.
Yes, exactly. I was like, is that the correct saying? I was like, I have to clear my throat at the same time of like saying these things. I couldn't think straight. I apologize, people. There was too many by processes happening on my end. I was like, I'm not sure if I got to cough, sneeze, and talking at the same time. All right. Great question, Vanina.
Yes, great question.
This is the last one, and then we'll get back into... Well, actually, let me ask you this. Before I ask you this next question, because I know we're still kind of like in the finagling state. And chat, let me know this too. There's a lot of good questions I think we would like to get to, but I also want to we do have quite a bit more time in the chat, but let us know if you guys want to continue asking questions. You want to hear more about what Aliza is putting here together on the live with us. I'm going to try to balance the good questions and what Aliza has to teach us today. Okay, so the next one, same thing from Vanina. How do you, for your fake projects, get the research done if there is no budget? There's nobody paying to get users. What would you recommend?
So I actually had no budget for this project for user research. So what I did was, first I did a proto persona, and that is basically a fake persona that is based on my assumptions, and not just mine, but I was working with the team. So with the customer service reps and with the stakeholders, people who actually have interacted with the customers. And so we created some assumptions there. And then, so you can interview people that it doesn't have to actually be the users too. You can interview people who know that type of user, etc. You can also do research on Reddit threads, Yelp reviews. That's how I've understood how people potentially feel about a product or service or an experience as well. And then on top of that, what I did was, it's called guerrilla research, guerrilla interviews. And I went out and I just chatted with people. And I've done this multiple times where I just will go up to someone. Of course, right now that's challenging to just go up to anybody in person. But that's something that you can consider for another period. But you can also do the same thing digitally as well. You can go on Facebook groups, again, Reddit threads, etc., and find the group you're trying to reach and ask them to fill out a 2-minute survey for you. From there, you can ask if they'd be willing to do a 30-minute interview with you. And I've done this plenty of times where I've not offered anything. And I just ask for a short period of time. So again, I say a 2-minute survey, I'll say a 20 or 30-minute interview, and I'll pull at the heartstrings a little bit. Like I'm just a student, limited funds, but I really want to help this cause, or I really want to solve this problem. Do you have this problem? Like, I just want, a couple minutes of your time. So that's the way to kind of entice people to spend a little bit of their precious time with you. And right now, more than ever, I'm sure people are willing to, because they have not much else to do. So there's that as well.
That's definitely a good answer. Everybody's really, really liking this. Vanina says, great answers. Voodoo Val is also dropping some great gems in the chat. Thank you, Voodoo.
Oh, Voodoo Val, says, she always does.
Yes, she says, if you want to get a UI UX job but only have illustration in your portfolio, you're only going to get illustration jobs. People typically won't ask you for something you aren't already doing and or showing off.
Yeah, true that.
All right, so we've gone through a lot of questions. Let's reacclimate, because where are we now? We've done quite a few things. I think we have 2 options here.
Yeah, I was just playing now with the top of my screen, and we can just put this in play mode. I was trying one version where I actually have the product, and right now as I'm looking at it, it looks too light. It needs to be, you want like easier readability here. Maybe what I'm going to do, and actually, have you guys done this yet? If you can go into an image, right click, edit in Photoshop. I hope this doesn't slow down my computer though right now. And it'll just open up in Photoshop here. So let's say I want to place, I'm just going to take a dark blue. If I want to just make this a bit darker over here, I can do that. Choose the opacity a little more. Just going to do something real quick and fast here. But if I want to play a little bit more with the shadow, it doesn't really matter all that much because I already have another opacity on top. So I just need something to kind of just darken this area a little bit so that it's just more legible on the for the text. Because again, you want to make sure your portfolio, when you're talking about UX, you want to follow UX best practices on your own stuff, right? You don't want someone to go to your site and go, oh, I don't think she really knows how to do UX. She's not following some UX best practices here. You want to avoid that as much as possible. So that's why I'm really going to focus my attention on making it really legible and following those best practices. So I will be the first to tell you, I am not a Photoshop wizard. I don't know how to use, I know how to use the basic stuff for my social media. So once I do that, I save it, and let's go back now and place this back in. You can see here now it has a nicer blend in the background, and you can read this text better. So that's kind of what I was trying to get at there. I could even like lighten that just a little bit more. And now, oops, there's my face, my big old face.
Hello there.
now when I go into this, I can actually read this a lot better and there's more emphasis there. So that's what I was looking at here. So this is one of the heading options. And then here we have my actual challenge. We have the design goals. I moved everything up. And then I'm showing a little bit about before I did this redesign, what that looks like. It's always really cool to see before and afters. So that's why I like to always show that if I am doing a redesign. Now let's look at the next one here. I have to still finesse this top area with the navigation, but now here is the images of my actual product. And I was, I'm kind of like going back and forth. Like, should I have this type of heading? Should I do this? So maybe what I should do then is just, I'm not sure. I've always told people to focus more emphasis on the actual final designs, give them a teaser near the top of the page of what your final outcome looks like. And so that's why I like this version, but I also feel like this version here makes it more focused on the copy. And so you're reading like what this vehicle service is, what the product is, and then the image really complements it even more. So you're like, oh, I'm seeing the actual car. Let me light it up. I'm seeing the actual car and its charge here in real life. So there's like those two things. What do you guys think? Is there any thoughts on that or any other alternative solutions people have or you have, Brandon, as well?
These are great questions. All that I do know, I'm like, I really like what I was flying through my head was, one, I was looking at the chat, and then two, I was like, I really like how we've taken this option that we're doing in the center here, compared to that other version we have on the right. I was taking a moment to compare the both, and I was like, we're making some good traction. We're making a lot of good changes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I'll wait for feedback on that heading from you guys before, because the other thing I was thinking too is maybe I have this at the top or I do like a version here.
And what specifically is the feedback that you're looking for, rather than just which one is better? What is the specific thing?
So yeah, I'm looking at, does it make more sense or more effective to have the actual image with the copy more pronounced? Or is it more effective to have the UI of the final design here? The reason too, I was thinking is, well, are people going to land directly here, or they're going to land here first and then go into this case study? And then I was thinking, then it doesn't really matter to have the same image that I just saw already again. So that's something that I was, thinking about there.
Gotcha. Let's see. Reading through the comments just very quickly. Dun, dun, dun.
What do you guys think? You guys really helped me out yesterday with my portfolio.
Yes, guys. We're trying to do this. We're trying to redo what we did yesterday. The awesome collaboration with the entire Adobe Live. I'm in favor of the example with the overlay in the car in the background, but I do get what you're saying, where if they're coming to this page and they've already clicked that image, it would make a lot of sense to have what they clicked on be the first thing that they see. I don't know. I'm a sucker for simplicity. I'm like, the less the more, so I can actually get into maybe what I'm looking at. But I do think context wise, having the app screens show up first keeps people in understanding of why they're there. They clicked on this particular case study to learn about that.
Yes. I was also thinking, like, I have kind of at this point, I hadn't really been thinking so much about my branding anymore. And I was like, oh, should I be more playful in my style? Or is it like kind of just random? That's the other thing I was thinking about.
Yeah, it's hard to pick. Guys, what would you pick? A, for just the car in the background and the overlay, or B, would you have all of the mock-ups right at the get-go? I see it does disturb a little bit of the menu that's easily fixable, but
yeah.
Thoughts in the chat, ladies and gentlemen.
Thoughts in the chat. Let's see. Yeah, so I have now a couple versions here. I'm gonna just keep moving forward and see how I feel about the rest. I always have many versions of what I'm doing. So bear with me, or that's why I have these two. And you saw yesterday too, if you guys were here, that I have multiple versions. It's also thinking like I could play with like a different style for my images here, and it could be more of my own branding. Right now I'm making it very templatized too, because also I don't want to create something super special design wise for each and every one of my case studies, because there's 6 on here. So that's going to be really challenging. And so I'm thinking, how can I make this just easily repeatable from one to the next? But also, like, again, that's why you don't need to make something super customized.
Very true. The chat seems to be in favor of, I was about to say number A, but we'll still go with that. With number A.
With numero A.
This is why we go to school, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I feel you. Okay, let's go with A then. So now I'm trying a new method of creating a collage. Again, I was like, is there a more playful way of doing it? And then again, do I want to use my own colors, or do I want to use the brand? I don't want it to be so random as well. It's kind of an interesting balance right now that I haven't experienced before, because the rest of my site can be totally my branding. But then now that I'm here, I'm like, okay, do my case studies also, like, should they also be all my own branding? Or is that like throwing it off so much because of the other designs you're seeing, you know?
Right.
Thoughts that I have. So this is a style that I use like a lot of my social media as well, just like placing an image within. Within another shape and color. And I think it makes sense too, because this suddenly feels a little bit more serious. And then it's kind of starkly different from this here, right? So we're here. Actually, we can prototype it a little bit. It's gonna go into prototype mode and do a basic transition here. So if I go from here, oh, these projects, Envoy. Oh, okay. I should create a call to action. Oh, okay, here's Envoy. I wonder if that's just like, whoa, suddenly it's dark and not bright and funky and fun anymore. So I'm wondering about that. Does that feel odd to you or no?
It's a challenging question. I think it is dark. I do believe that it is dark because it has that nice blue. That's why I was kind of like, if we carried over what people clicked on into the hero in the next page, that would make sense. I just feel like, I don't know what I feel. This is literally what we were talking about yesterday, where it's just like, all right, this looks okay. This is probably an example of us following, but like, you know, but not not actually falling at this moment, but it's just like we are in a state of uncertainty. We're like, we have two options. They both look kind of good. We're not really too sure, but we'll come back to it. That happens all the
Mm-hmm.
time. And that's literally the process. It's nothing is ever like perfect. It's like we get it somewhere and then we'll come back tomorrow after Adobe Live and you're like, yeah, we're definitely more funky colors, more circles, more squares with rounded edges. This,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you're seeing things at work.
Yeah, totally. Like that's what happened to me yesterday. I was like, oh, I have like all these new ideas after I was like looking back and I'm like, I hate that screen. It looks awful. And then I was just redoing things. So that's pretty normal. I was also like, maybe we just brighten it up with this purple instead. Um, and I can
It's
play with
much
that
lighter.
more. So now I'm trying out this like linear gradient. Bloop, bloop, bloop. So this color, I was thinking I'm just gonna maintain the same color on both sides. But on one side, this side, I want it to have a darker, like this side might be like a less of an opacity, and then I'll have like more, let me turn this up like this. I'm just playing around a little bit with the opacity now so that again, it's just more readable, but that it has more of a gradual gradually further into like actually seeing that vehicle. Maybe that's like a little bit more on brand for me. And it doesn't feel like, whoa.
But we still get some of those colors. There we go. That's much better. It's not super dark. We still have the colors carrying over from the project, your brand. And people are agreeing. They're like, definitely bring in some of those more that Alize brand color. And I think that fixes some things. Yeah. And by the way, we do have I want to give a little bit of time. We have 3 minutes before we get into our artist spotlight. We have an amazing guest today. We're going to take a look at their work. And then with the time remaining, we can come back here, get into a little bit more of what we're doing here, and then into some questions before we close out for our final minutes in the live stream.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so what I'm doing now is this is the finessing, this is the designing and trying to make it play around with the high fidelity. And that's why it's best to like already have your content at this point, so that you're not worrying about too many things at the same time. So I was also playing around now with this other version here. Bringing back potentially my shape. So now I have many versions. I have many versions. And I could even still put a little bit of a purple opacity on here. Right now, I'm just like changing my layers, switching up my layers so that they're where I want them to be, so that they're on top of things. And there's a shortcut for this, like holding Command and the brackets. You can like place things on top of or below each other.
I like the way that this is coming out. I think I feel like every time we brought back in some sort of geometry, I feel like it started to fit a little bit more.
Yeah, I think too, because it just stays consistent. Because something that I do and something that a lot of designers do, you look at a lot of other examples. And so you just start naturally applying it to your designs. So I was like applying that Uber example to mine. And then now I get to think, oh, wait, now I need to put my cap on of my own design and my own branding a bit. So now how can I start applying those elements to it and take just elements of it that I like, or begin with it and then start to make it a little bit more personalized. So that's something I recommend, because sometimes it's so easy to exactly copy and paste it, even though it doesn't make sense, but you're just influenced. So yeah, that's definitely something to think about. We're all influenced.
Yeah, they copy and paste and just change a couple words. Just, you're about to say the same thing. It's close enough. Just change it enough, ladies and gentlemen. That's, change it enough.
Right. Yeah, I'm liking this third version better. So I have that up here, example of what it is. My challenge, design goals before the redesign. I'm bringing back my little shapes and doing a different type of collage here now. This looks kind of crazy. I'm not sure. I'm going to just probably center all of this instead. No.
And actually, we can get right back to this, Alize, but we have time to come back. But ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to get into our favorite part of the day, our artist spotlight. Today we have, as I share my screen, we have Miss Tia, or excuse me, not Tia. I don't know what's going on with words today, guys. Please forgive me. I think, too many things are infiltrating my brain. We have Tysa Boaton. Yes.
Because they're my favorite.
Yeah. She's from Jersey City, and she's got quite a bit of work. She has, 4, 5, 6 pieces of design. The first thing that stood out to me, I was like, ooh, I think this is a Nintendo Switch. Let's click on it. I'm not actually sure. I've seen these controllers. Do you have a Nintendo Switch, Alize?
I do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I use it.
Do you have it? I have one and I use it. Good. Okay. Yes. I've been very much considering getting one, but I thought this was awesome. The colors, especially Animal Crossing. I think there's a huge thing. Now that you have a Switch, is Animal Crossing something that you've really been digging recently, or have?
No, sorry, don't play Animal Crossing, but I know tons of people that love it. Yeah, but this is super cool. I like this.
And we have the login page, the sign up page, the blog page for your activities in which you do in Animal Crossing. You can talk about them. Love the perspective on some of these.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if they're using 3D Transform there. The XD feature. I think
maybe. Possibly. If you guys aren't up on 3D Transform, look for it. First update Adobe XD. Download it if you don't already have it. And start messing around with some of the 3D Transform pieces that you guys have. Start messing with some of the 3D properties.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Which one should we do next? Alize.
Let's try the first one.
All right, let's go for the first one. I feel like this has something. Yes. I was like, is that a sandwich? I'm glad we picked on this one.
Donner.
Yes. Donner.
Making me hungry.
Oh, yes. I haven't had a sandwich in a while, and I really would like to. The Donner Express is a local casual restaurant that opened a couple years ago. I wanted to try designing a website for them because the people who opened the restaurant are super nice, and I love to see them prosper. Very nice reason of doing.
See, helping out the community, doing work for them.
Exactly. This is how you guys get free work. Jump in, offer some help, get experience. She did both the desktop and the mobile versions.
Great. Yeah, both versions. Awesome.
Very nice. I love the photo that she used here. And
it's very enticing.
Yes.
She's doing the job, like making someone hungry and then like wanting to eat that right now. Like that's what I'm getting from that.
Photography, ladies and gentlemen, from the internet. That's how you do it. All right, let's see. I'm fighting between this one, 80s music trivia, and Jim Dodge comedy. Which one?
Comedy.
Comedy? All right, let's roll with comedy. All right. Jim Dodge is an actor, comedian based in the New York metropolitan area. He asked me to help him set up his website using an online site builder. I took the general look and feel of that site and created a prototype using Adobe XD. I then wrote the HTML and CSS using Tailwind CSS, very nice, and used a jQuery plugin to manage the layout of his YouTube clips. I also wrote some JavaScript to configure the mobile menu. Just like Alize was talking about. Yeah, she's following some of the rules that you kind of have, Alize, where it's just like, All right, cool. What you have and what we're looking at is really awesome, but what is going on?
Yeah, I like that she gives a background. I like that she's helping a friend out. Again, like asking anyone in your community if that you can support them with design. And also she's showcasing her many skills, doing design as well as coding.
Right. And she has some before and afters, what her colors are, the typography she's using. Really good stuff. You know, showcasing that mobile view,
Mhm.
not just the desktop. Very nice work. That's some good
Very
stuff.
nice.
That's some good stuff.
Yes.
Takes claps. Claps
Claps
all
for
around.
you. Design claps.
Very nice. All right, Lise, guys, that was the artist spotlight of today. We're gonna roll back into actually, I believe we should be having her link if you want to check out some of her work. We'll have that in the chat. Voodoo, please send the link over there so everybody can check out this awesome stuff, or even if people want to follow her, say hello. All right, so Lise, we're gonna rock back with you where we left off. We were centering some text. Let's get into it.
We were centering text. Whoa, so exciting.
I made that sound. Sorry, we were
exciting world.
Medically. Yes.
Yes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just like ungrouping. And I group and ungroup all the time, and I'm using the shortcut here, but you can also just right click to group and ungroup things. It just makes life a lot easier because now I'm basically going to right click, group it to then center things here. So I'm just going to center that inside. Something that I'm like not sure about this section that it's just not designed so well. It kind of looks just like a blog, but something about all of this just looks terrible. Like the fonts that I'm using, the different sizes here, the collage, it's not feeling so nice. So this is something I want to design out a little bit better. But the rest of it, because like something I want to just point out is that it's just much more readable now and scannable than my previous version. And it's also just like that nice blend. And again, just using the storytelling to not overwhelm people, but to kind of keep them interested, and to also use a nice amount of spacing between your content so they can just take in just this section here, right? Just the before redesign. What am I supposed to gather from this? And I might even add another sentence to give a little bit more context. But here, spending most of my attention where I want people to look at is this copy here, right? The bullet points, maybe versus this one. So that's kind of showing the emphasis on what you want people to pay attention to. Using this is kind of an interesting thing, actually, like copy design. And you do more copy design on portfolio or in your case study than you do elsewhere. Like I don't think that much and thoroughly over all of my copy, because nothing I design is usually that text heavy. Perhaps, and also so much storytelling in a page, because I know, like, you do that in blogs, right, or and so forth, but I don't do a lot of that. So this is kind of an interesting thing now, and something newer for me, which I haven't done before, which is why I'm having a little struggle with this part. All right, so let's look at what I like to do when I'm kind of stumped, like with this area. I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. It looks crappy. So I like to go back and just look at some examples again of other people's designs and what they do. So they've here are having like the text on the left hand, or the heading on the left hand side, instead of like I have it centered, so I can play around with like the headings. Perhaps like they do, some is centered, some is left aligned. Let's look at, this is another designer, Courtney Lamb. I did a portfolio review for her a little while back, and I really liked what she came up with here. So she has a lot of text here, but she also really balances it with images and some explanations of what we should be paying attention to in that image. So I'm just taking a look at hers as well and seeing if that strikes any sort of sort of ideas for me. And then now I'm looking at, again, the Uber one here, noticing he does have a lot of text and is reading like more like a blog in this format. And there's that version as well. So you can see like the difference here. He's much more text, a little bit more text heavy than Courtney Lamb was in her portfolio. So that's just, that's something I'm thinking about now. So here I have it centered here in this heading. So I'm going to play around with the left aligned and see how that feels for me. And maybe kind of doing a half and half method here.
In all these decisions that you're making, how do you know you're like, okay, this next section, I'm going to do a half and half. Another section, I'm going to do, left line. Next section, maybe, I don't know if you would right align it. But if you rather, how do you know when to keep things centered in this section, have things left aligned in this section, have them on the right in another section? How do you go about thinking about those things?
Yeah, that's a good question. So sometimes, I try to have some sort of consistency in what I do. So if we go to some of my other pages, you're seeing that most of my stuff is centered for my main headings. But here again, it's almost to me like I'm designing a blog. And it's a little different. It almost has its own rules in this that's different than the rest. So because of that, I'm thinking about just making sure that at least it's still like, oh, I understand what is the heading. Like, oh, okay, I get that there's the larger text for the heading, and it's still scannable, but also breaking up the monotony through the monotony of a text, of a little bit more of a text heavy page and a longer page, with some varied ways of structuring the text. So here, it's just basically like larger numbers that I'm using instead of just bullet points. So not always just using bullet points again, because you're like, okay, bullet point after bullet point, it kind of gets a little tiring for the eyes. So that's why you just want some of that visual changes between centering and then maybe using this left align system to make it more interesting for the reader. And again, visually interesting. And then something else that I kind of try to always do is have some sort of background, potentially like, so that it's not just all white. So maybe I'm going to use, what else do I use in my designs? I use every single color of the rainbow here, but I'm going to use, I don't want it to be so bold and intense like I do for other areas, because again, it's like a blog, it's more readable, and it should flow that way. So maybe I'm going to use something like that for now. We'll see. But just enough to indicate, oh, this is a different section. So that's what I'm trying to get at here, but lighter colors. I don't know about this collage, guys. It's just, I hate it. I hate my collage. I just hate my collage. What do you think, Brandon? Do you hate my collage too?
I don't think it doesn't bother me necessarily.
Let's look at it now. How does it feel? How does it feel to you?
The only thing that kind of gets me, and it might not even be a thing, I'm just, because you asked me, I feel inclined to have an answer.
Yes, please.
It's just the how the lines that the grid are creating and where the text is on the outskirts of them, if that makes sense. That's the only thing. But I don't even think that necessarily
I see what you mean. Sometimes I do my Yoda voice. What should I do about this? I say it's a Yoda voice, but my fiance doesn't. He's like, I don't know what that sounds like. It's kind of like The Martian, if you remember Marvin the Martian.
Well, I feel like you can tell him on behalf of all of Adobe Live that we recognize that as Yoda. So you now have that stamp. You can now return and be like, listen, today we got confirmation.
Okay, I will. I'm going to leave this as is because I'm ready to move on to, I want to show you guys a few more things. So once I start actually showing my screens, what I've done is a few things. So in my actual case study here, where'd it go?
And ladies and gentlemen, we have a, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I put down like the actual designs and like my little section titles for them, like when I'm actually showing my final design work. And then some things I want to use a GIF, and some places I want to actually have a video and my voice explaining things. And some places I just want to actually use the image of the screens with some annotations. So again, I'm always wanting to give a little more context maybe than just showing screens, because that just shows your UI skills and your visual skills, but you want to explain again your designs and how everything you did before is now this is the highlight, and this is the final presentation of what you did, and have that all be like that story wrapped up in a bow. So here for GIF, what I've used is Giphy. Have you guys used Giphy before? It's so simple. You can just upload just a video or an MP4, and you can create those MP4s in XD. So here what I have is my design file. And let's say I was going to wanting to record this flow. Actually, let me show another version of this really quick. What you can do is when you go into play mode, I'm just not even gonna do this other thing. You can actually see this little record button here with zeros. When you click this little arrow next to it, you can enable your microphone too. So you can record this and you can, click around and talk. And this is something that I use. You can make just MP4s and upload it to your portfolio. But this is also something I do when I'm sharing to developers or maybe with stakeholders. I'll explain the designs when I'm sending them if I'm not doing an in-person presentation or if it's just something quick I need to share. So that's something I use all the time. And then now, once you stop it, you can save it as that MP4. So after I did that, that's when I uploaded it into Giphy. So I uploaded this little video here, and then I just right click and you can save the image. So save image as, and now it's a GIF, and I can upload this straight from here into Webflow now. So that's how you can create a GIF really easily with XD. Now, the other aspect I was explaining is you can also just use the MP4, just the video, if you want to have your voice enabled. And that's what I am going to do for another aspect of my site and my case study is I'm going to enable over here in another section. Let me bring back my website. Is I'm just going to have three different, all these different sections, and I'm just going to start it here, where I'm explaining parts of my design. And then on the right-hand side, I'm either going to have an image or a GIF or a video to explain. So let me show you guys how I'm going to do that. So with the GIF, you can actually place any GIFs inside XD. So don't worry about doing that. So you can just have an image placeholder, but something you can show. So here, I also had already pre-created this explanation of my own designs, my redesign, and what I did and why I did them too. So again, not just showing my screens, but actually, just showing the annotations, actually showing why I made certain decisions and what you should be paying attention to in the design. So here, I have Scan and Go. Actually, I'm going to do this one. Reserve it in 2 steps is what I'm going to show here. So this is the feature I'm trying to show. And then underneath is my little explanation for what you should be looking at and pay attention to. And I just placed my screens into these little phones. Oh, I wonder why this one doesn't have this little, I'm missing my little handle at the top. I'll fix that later. But so that's something that I'm using here. So again, try to do a little bit more explanation than just sharing UI screens. So then maybe right underneath that, I would have my Scan and Go. And then from there, I would actually have maybe right here with my another image, my GIF next to it. So that's just going to be automatically playing when someone comes here. And then maybe from there, I'm going to center this.
And while you're centering that, we do have about like 4.5 minutes. So ladies and gentlemen, while we're speed getting this last few things in with Alize, please also let us know any final questions. If not, I know Alize has like a bomb drop waiting for that last minute for you guys. So
I have a bomb drop.
Well, this entire thing, the end of this, the collection of the last 2 days, you guys, whether you came in a little bit later in this episode or in this segment, or you missed yesterday, you guys have a lot to amazing things to go back and rewatch. You know, yesterday was an amazing day, and really all of today was just as amazing in terms of the content and the questions that we've answered. So if you guys feel answered, Alize did more than what she came here to do. So thank you.
Yeah, I hope you guys got some insights and there's a lot of great strategic questions that were asked. So thank you guys for asking those questions. And I would love to see what you guys make from this and what you guys end up doing. And if you implement any of these into your own portfolio, please send them over. So what I've done now is I'm just showing a few different versions of what I would do to showcase my designs. One is annotating my designs. A second one might be, or second feature that I'm sharing would be a video or a GIF, that I would be playing if it's kind of self-explanatory and matches what I was trying to say in my text. And then the third might be something I want to explain a little bit more. Then I might have like a 20 to 40 second video, really, really short, that is just describing with my words what you're looking at, why I made certain design decisions, etc. So those are the 3 different ways I suggest to showcase what you did, why you did it, because again, this is the most important piece. How did everything that we did in here in the earlier stages, how did I actually meet those business goals at the very end and showcase that strategy as well as the final design and the output of that. And that is like that nice final package. And you can also just even have a little video playing the full prototype at the very end. And that could be an explanation, you explaining it, or it could just be playing in the background as a GIF or a video. And so those are some choices that you have to just make your designs come more to life. And again, just, picture says 1,000 words, or picture's worth 1,000 words, but video is just all that much more impactful, and something I really highly recommend, because they make it so easy in XD to make a video with your designs. So again, highly recommend that. Do we have more time? I think I'll wrap it up here at the end now, just explaining sort of what we've done and where we're at now. 2 days. Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks. 2 minutes. 2 days of building the portfolio. Thank you again for all your guys' help. You guys helped me come up with this whole concept yesterday with how I should design it. And this was the final winner of all of what we did yesterday. So these are my projects. I'm creating this in XD, and I'm going to redesign this in Webflow or build it in Webflow. And from here, I have all of my different projects. I'm using my own branding in it. And I'm going to lay out all of this now here. And then from there, when you actually go into the case study, now we kind of landed on this one, where we have a little bit about what the project it was about, some of the challenge or goals that we had as designers. Those are really important to begin with. If you worked with a team, you might want to express your role and the other team members that were involved. And then from there, you might, if you're doing a redesign, you might have a before the redesign and some things that you want to point out about it. Again, if you did any user testing, this is a great place or great way to showcase that, like 4 out of 6 users did not understand this, etc. If you want an example of that, you can go on to my Behance, and my archive profile or my archive case study shows that, how I incorporate user testing results and showing and annotating that here. And then all the way to actually showcasing your designs and the different methods that you can do to show all that hard work that you did and the outcome of it. So anyways, take look at my website maybe in a couple weeks and you're going to see some of these live. So I'm going to put them into Webflow, alizeux.com, and we'll see it go into action. And I'm going to start a little series too on how to go from XD into Webflow. But anyways, yeah, thank you guys so much for spending the time with me. I appreciate it. Thank you, Brandon, for being such a wonderful host and being so welcoming and warm. And I really had a good time.
Likewise. And that's it from us, guys. If you want to see this again, it will be here on Behance, and yesterday is on Behance as well. And thanks for coming. We'll see you later. Thanks for coming. Peace. Thank you, Elise.
Bye.